tonight. So let's get started, 7:01, October 14th. I'm gonna call it to order. Can we do, before we do a roll call, let's, Mark, can you lead us in Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mark. Pleasure. All right, can we do the roll call, please? Oh, there she is.
Right, Christia Claire?
Here.
Marissa Brown? Here. Catherine Consalvo?
Here.
Julie Hammond?
She's just
Walking in.
Yeah, I didn't say here.
Perfect. Julian Kishka?
Here.
Michael Muscola?
Here.
Todd McCormick?
Here.
John O'Neill?
Here.
Sue Sherman?
here.
Mark Sherwood?
Here.
Maria Watkins?
Here.
Chris Kellen?
He's right on his way. He was in before.
Okay, great, thank you. Let's take a few minutes to read through the minutes. We're gonna look over the August 26th and the September 30th minutes, and then I'll ask for a motion to approve these. So, and for those of you who are newer, typically you would abstain if you weren't part of the meeting. I don't think it's required, but kind of customary. And some of these we didn't do last week, so, or 2 weeks ago, so you probably already read through these.
I make a motion to put on the floor the August 26th minutes, but I have a couple of additions notes I'd like added.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, discussion?
If I could, under, so page 2 of 3, under report of committees, the paragraph that begins Todd McCormick, proposed getting back on track with facilities tour. I'd like it noted that the chairman mentioned, and that we discussed, our meetings with the school board, and you're reaching out to the school board chairman. I think that should be in the minutes, that you had discussions with Dr. Farrar about coming together.
I agree, I did.
So if we could add a sentence there about Mr. McCormick has reached out to Dr. Farrar and had numerous calls, or a couple of calls? How many did you have?
Exchanged a couple of emails.
Exchanged a couple of emails regarding meeting together.
Okay,
I think that's pertinent information, should be in the minutes.
all right, do you want to make,
I'm making an amendment to the minutes to add that sentence.
So do we amend them and then you guys approve them?
yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Carrie, did you get that? What you said there? Okay. All right, any other discussion on the minutes from the 26th? Then, with no further discussion, let's take a vote to accept as amended,
As corrected, or,
as corrected. All right. All in favor? Oh, you know what, I'm still messed up from this whole remote thing. This is only like the 13th person. Yeah, all in favor? All opposed? Abstentions?
5 and 5.
Okay. Motion passes. Can I get a motion for the September 30th minutes, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of September 30th.
Second it.
Point of personal privilege information, just a misspelling of my name.
All right, we can correct that. Do we have a second, Marissa?
Yep, second.
Okay, discussion. Where is that, Mark?
About midway through Mark Sherman, page 1 of 3.
Well,
Oh,
I'd like-
wow, you got
yes, yes, I know, you got the
Yeah.
double
Oh, I
whammy.
got it backwards.
No, that's okay.
Sorry.
I'd be honored to.
I would too.
Where is this?
It's,
Mark
led the
Sherman
Pledge
is
of
not my
Allegiance.
son. Former student, but not
Mark
son.
Sherwood.
All right, any other discussion on those minutes? All right. All right, we'll vote to approve as corrected then. All in favor? All opposed? Abstentions?
614.
Okay. Okay, moving on, we did an appointment last week for the clerk. So, so welcome again, Carrie, for those who weren't here last week. Carrie's gonna be our, clerk for the budget committee. But while we're on that section, I just wanna, I'll just note that, while we appreciate, I'm sure he's not watching, we appreciate all the time and commitment that, Brian made as our, school board, budget committee rep. He has moved on and, cause he's, got some other committees and some other commitments, so I just wanted to formally welcome, Mr. O'Neill, who I think is now gonna be our school board rep for the budget committee. So it's not an appointment, but, just wanted to, acknowledge that, so thanks for being with us, Sean.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Moving on to correspondence. Can I assume we do not have any correspondence?
I don't have any correspondence.
Okay. Next is delegates and individuals. The seats are empty. So we're gonna move on to the administrative report. And that's where Maria and Chris can just kind of give us an update on, you know, what's going on and since our last meeting 2 weeks ago.
Sure, thank you. A number of committees have been working hard. We have policy committee going, facilities committee, what other committee?
CIP.
CIP, I believe I can say we pretty close to wrapped up.
I'd like to make that report if I could.
Feel free.
We'll have her do that. We'll have her do that in the next section for reports of committee. Chris.
Excellent. One of the things we are doing in our schools, we are opening up for recreation departments, sports, to utilize our schools, our gyms. Primarily at this point, it's going to be basketball. They will be following the same rules that are in place regarding masking, and will follow the recommendations and the matrices that we are currently using in order for that to continue. We all know that, you know, it's all hinges upon wherever we're at with the numbers and whatever rules that we're following at the time. I would like to put a little plug in there for substitutes. So anybody who's watching who is interested in being a substitute in our schools, we still have a great need for substitutes in our schools on a daily basis. That being said, we also still have several paraprofessional vacancies, so we're also open to anyone looking. Feel free to call this office or to go visit our website at trsd.net and click on the Human Resources link, and you will be able to find the application process. I think I'll let Maria, would you like to cover the piece that we just had our first presentation with respect to the
The
performance
performance
contract? We just conducted that first presentation and interview today, and I'll let Maria cover that.
Yes, so we had, we put out for the RFP, we only have 2 bids. One is EEI Systems, and the other one was Train. We had the interview today with EEI Systems. They had a very good presentation. They explained the process very well. They said the audit process of all of our buildings takes about 2 months. They are not going to charge us for the process, for the audit, even though we don't go with them, even if we don't choose them, there's no fee for the audit process. They are a local company, they are a New Hampshire company, small New Hampshire company, so that's one of the things that I think I personally appreciate about it. But they were extremely helpful, very descriptive, they have a very good presentation. Mark was there too, was that your sense too?
Impressed, not necessarily the spit and polish you'd expect from a large, huge company. They were able to answer all the questions, and they answered them honestly some of the time, even when it perhaps was not to their benefit, was nice. The testimonials that Maria was able to get from school districts that they have worked with in the past was persuasive, simply because these school districts, Manchester, Nashua, Keene, after using them once, have gone back and used them repeatedly, which is, they're repeat customers, which is, very nice to hear. Another benefit is they're not tied to a particular vendor. They were pitching this as a potential benefit, especially with some of the constraints we have in getting product in, the supply constraints, so that they were not tied to a Train, to an X, to a Y, to a Z. They could shop around. So it'll be interesting to see what next Tuesday brings as well, but it was well received, I think.
Great. Okay. Anyone have any questions for Chris and Maria before we move on? Chris, you said that the gyms are opening up for recreation. I know that that's happening at the middle school and the high school. Is that happening at all the gyms around the elementary schools too for rec leagues?
Yes, all of the elementary schools will open up for basketball.
Oh,
That's
okay.
the only application we have so far that I'm aware of. I'm sure they'll be rolling in, though,
Okay.
looking to see what else is out there.
Great.
And I guess the one last thing, just, to remind everybody that on October 21st, Thursday, October 21st, we have our special meeting to look to accept additional adequacy funds from the state of New Hampshire.
Okay. That's right.
7 PM in the gym.
If I can also interject in that, I'd like to make a comment in regards to that. The, as a sidebar from this, is that no town is gonna be able to set their tax rate until after that meeting. And that information has to be brought up to DRA, and then it's gotta go through the whole pipeline, through the Department of Education, back and forth. So time is of the essence with that, so I was gonna be asking it, but since I see you now, it's best to put it on the table. Is that needs to be addressed first thing the following morning to get that up there
Oh,
and
yeah,
stuff, so.
I had been in.
It's just so we're all on the same page and stuff, so
I
that's just
have
what I wanted
been
to bring to our
coming-
attention, because I was trying to set ours for the town of Danville, and then they brought that to my attention, and I was like, oh, yeah, I guess that would cause a big emergency break, so.
Yeah.
And just to make it clear, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, but this is not just a typical deliberative. This is a kind of a combined deliberative and then also a
The
vote.
meeting, it's all the one and
As
done,
opposed to voting in the town polling
Yes.
places. You're voting in the gym.
correct.
Thank you.
Yep,
You'll deliberate it, and you vote like it was an old-fashioned
that's right.
town meeting.
Sean, to address your concern, I had been in almost weekly communication with the DRA. I actually met in person with Jamie Dow last
Yep.
Friday. She is completely aware of the
Yep,
situation.
no, that's what I've been talking
We
with as
are one
well.
of 37 towns that is doing the same thing in the state
Yep.
of New Hampshire, so we're not the only ones.
No,
And
I
actually,
do understand that.
we're not the last ones either. There are towns that are having their special meeting after hours.
But it
so-
just to know that it's a pipeline effect, because then we can't set our tax rate, which means we can't set our bills on out, which then they have 30 days for that, and then so forth, and we're all playing at the local level, the same issues that everybody else does. It's cash flow and so forth, so it's something that came in that, we'll be able to address internally, but, if it pushes on out farther and farther, not saying it's going to, but right now, we would probably already have set our rate right now if it wasn't for this, so I just want to make it that we have to move it forward, that's
Yeah.
all.
Okay. Thank you for that administrative report. We're gonna move on to budget committee members and report of the committees, and I'm going to start with Ms. Sherman to let us know where things are with the CIP.
Yeah, they had a CIP meeting the other night. Let's see, Christie was there, Chris Kellen was there, Maria was there, Julian Kiska came in and joined us as well. So what's going on with the CIP committee is talking about a performance contract, talking about ESSER funds, so that's two, I'll call it money flows, talking about the possible acceptance of the adequacy aid on October 21st, plus, plus money raised through tax dollars and I'll say, quote, normal budget. It kind of is an interesting way to have to view these four columns of possible money to draw on to accomplish capital projects that have been on that capital CIP list in some cases for numerous years. And now with a new operations and facilities director who is looking at everything as well and finding other things, things are being juggled around. I think we're this close to being done to have it straightened out. We agreed that we are in support of making sure people come and vote on October 21st at 7 o'clock in the gym, and accept that money from the state, and move along with this performance contract. We're supporting those ideas, and it will be up to the school board and the facilities and administration to decide where those monies will go towards capital projects and academic projects as well. So, not much has changed with the projects that we've had in that document for a number of years. Windows, roofing, paving, the track, the outside field facilities, not just on the campus, I use that word, but the campus, but the district facilities, outside facilities, are all projects that we want to get done. And Dr. Farrar was at the CIP meeting and has made it very clear that the board would make sure, as part of their presentation on the 21st, to discuss, here are projects that the school board would like to have accomplished, and we could use these adequacy aid funds for. We could do this and this and this and this and this now, as long as we can get the product, the window or the boiler or the or the materials, to try to show the community what those funds could be used for. So this is a real opportunity, very different than what we've had in years past, where we only had the tax dollar coming through the budget. So it's kind of an interesting approach. So Kim and I are agreed, and the committee's agreed, that we would like to get back on track for the CIP following our normal meeting in March, and be able to plan ahead with this new facilities director. So it's kind of all falling in place. It's been a little jumbled through all of this past year, very jumbled, but I think we're this close.
That's great.
Being
Do you
set.
guys think you'll set the final priority of year 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah,
5 after the 21st?
I think we'll have probably year one and some things in year two, but
Okay.
we're not, there's no way we can go out to year 5 right at the moment.
Okay,
But I'd be happy with year 1 and 2.
that's good, that's good. I mean, it's a long list, it's many years out, and I think right around the time they were doing the public hearing for this additional adequacy aid, I saw a comment somewhere that I think people in the public might assume that what we budget every year nips it in the bud.
It does not.
That list, if we put everything in 1 year on that, which would obviously not be fiscally sound, it would be ridiculously high. So there are tens of millions of dollars worth of things in that CIP over the course of time.
Right, and these are not pie in the sky, building a whole new science building,
No.
not that I wouldn't love that, but it's facilities, upgrade and maintenance that we've had to just slog along through, and now with this little, I hate to say extra money, but found money, we could maybe get ahead on that list. Not that things won't still need to be repaired as we go along. These are not brand-new buildings, these are, so.
Okay. Well, thank you. And, Mark, you kind of just gave us an update, but you were, it's not necessarily a committee, but we kind of nominated you to, or you volunteered to go be part of the,
Evaluation, yeah. And so there was a lot of discussion, quite long there. We talked about several different ways in which we could contract with this particular company if we decided to, either via lease or via bonds, how it's traditionally done. They actually have a good deal of experience in dealing with municipalities. More than, I think it was 75% of their work is actually with school districts and municipalities. And they said that they would help and walk us through and essentially do all the paperwork for the ERISA funding. They'd done that before. That was some of the positive feedback Maria had gotten as well. They had talked about how the energy savings, how they were going to both protect the district and the town with the energy savings. If crude oil goes from $64 a barrel to, $128, how are we both protected from that? So went into some details with that, just to make certain the taxpayers, were protected as well. It was well done. There's a lot of detail. We can certainly talk offline. I'd be more than happy to with anyone.
Okay, great. Great, well, that's pretty much it for the budget committee, committees. Sean, we usually would kick this over to Brian now to give us any kind of updates from the school board perspective.
I do know, I did see the feedback that, you and Dr. Farrow were exchanging some emails, and the outcome of that is we're gonna have a joint meeting.
Yes.
I believe it's in November-ish
November
timeframe.
18th.
Yeah, so that is, progressing, and it seems like it's moving forward. That's it, and then as far as the rest of the budget goes, I mean, we are just gonna be receiving ours version of the budget in the not too distant future.
Yep.
So until that comes on out, I don't have anything else to comment on.
Okay, fantastic. I don't believe we have any unfinished business, do we?
No.
No? So without further ado, we're gonna move on to new business and see some presentations from these wonderful people here. I did hear, when I first got here, the order is not necessarily set in stone, so if anyone needs to leave earlier for any reason, you could go first if you wanted to, or we could stick to the agenda. Totally up to you, no judgment.
It's going to be great.
Go, there you go, all right.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Steve Harris. I'm the new principal at Atkinson Academy. Just to let you know, this is my 17th year as an administrator, my 29th in education. So very excited to be here. And I'm just going to read through some notes that I have. As I prepared the Atkinson budget, we reflected upon the overall goal of achieving curricular objectives while being fiscally responsible. Staff assisted in building the budget based on the unique learning needs of our students and with state-adopted standards as we're preparing our kids for their futures. My overall 22-23 budget request is actually slightly lower than last year's, down about $1,640. There was only one change on the budget that was in excess of $1,000, and that was on the library access, or library information access line. And I can read that number, but I think you all have it in front of you. And it was a decrease of $1,400. In a large part, there was $1,500 that was moved to a district budget line to support district-level purchase of BookFlix. And that's overall going to represent a savings to Timberlane in the long run when you split that cost amongst the schools. And then some of the other lines had minor up and down, but that's pretty much the big change that we had. I look forward as we move on to making adjustments for the next budget. I can't believe I'm saying this, 23, 24. As I get a better understanding of the needs of the academy, and I'll have that as this year moves on. Being just a few months into the school year and building a budget, and just brand new to the district, you know, I need a little time to kind of figure out what are the needs, and, you know, what direction we are all headed in. So, I want to say thanks to everybody for their ongoing support of Atkinson and Timberlane. So, thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. If anyone has any questions, feel free. I'd like to kick it off by saying I enjoyed the facility tour that you led us on immensely. I saw parts of Atkinson Academy I've never seen before. I've only been in there once before, but that was a heck of a tour. And I think I can speak for the two Atkinson School Board reps and Budget Committee member reps when I say I'm definitely serious about we need to figure out some way to preserve that building and make it like a sustainable environment, you know, long term.
I agree with you.
Yeah, because I get why you're doing the music classes in those bottom floors to keep it, you know, consistently usable, and I applaud that. But that building has character, and I know Mr. Boyle was very serious about trying to get, you know, community outreach and do something
Yeah.
about that.
It needs a little bit of, you know, care and love. It's the kind of thing that, you know, a building that's 200-plus years old,
Yep.
you know, needs. But the bones are there, and,
Yep.
you know, the history that it represents. When I first joined the school, we were doing a building tour. I think Maria was with us, and I made mention of, you know, I think I want to move the music class out of here and find a spot. And I was told a hard no at that, saying, no, this is why it's the oldest standing
Absolutely.
school. So I thought,
I mean, it's the oldest standing
Co-ed,
coeducational,
yep.
right? I mean, in the
exactly.
country, and that's right here in our district. So,
Here.
I mean, yeah.
Have we looked into anything like at the state level, like getting this on some kind of
So
registry?
actually, it's funny, EEI did mention that. That was one of the things that they were going to look at, some of the preservation they could do structurally, and further utilizing that, the potential of utilizing that building more than it is, more than just, you know, trying to preserve the shell and its ongoing utility. So.
I
yeah,
just know that when you
interesting.
get on these kind of,
Yep,
you know,
so
certain
they-
registries, that now you're entitled to access other types of
And-
funding,
and
not
that's
just at the
something
state
that they'd
level,
actually done
but at the
with
federal
some of the
level as well.
Manchester buildings. Yes, so that is something that they were
I
actively
mean,
looking
Sean,
into.
in the basement, the beams are whole logs from 1800
Yeah,
with the bark still on them. Am I right, Julian? I mean, it's unbelievable.
yeah.
you're not gonna find that.
No, absolutely not. So, I mean, I think it's an asset for our district, and I think we could get a lot of people behind a movement like that.
Right, and then what else could we utilize the building
Yeah,
for?
yeah.
You know,
I
throw.
mean, the ringing the bell was pretty fun, though.
Hey,
That'll be a
Just gotta-
fundraiser, $50. There we go.
Okay. Well, I don't have any other questions, but Julie,
Well, I
go
have
ahead.
It's more of a question to you
Yes, sir.
in this process. We went to the various schools and the facilities, and there seemed to be a disparity in which ones were in better shape and which ones weren't. And I think it's only people that really are gonna be aware of it are the people who were there, the people who administrate those facilities and the people who went to see them. And there should be some kind of a process to try to get some of the ones that are not in good shape kind of caught up, because these are the structures where our children are spending their days. And not only is it air quality, maybe structure of the building, how it's being utilized. It's not a matter of old and new, but it's a matter of their functionality and their safety. And so I'd like to see it, I mean, no, it's not, you don't want to equally say this much equal amount goes to every building, because they're not, it looks like they haven't been treated the same over the years in the past. I wasn't here, it's my first year. And I think there's a way we need to start equalizing, or getting the ones that are in worse shape caught up, not to ignore the ones that are in better shape, but somehow a process that, awareness process, that it could be done in a way that starts to get them more equal, and so that the students around the district have a equality in their facilities. So I don't know if there's gonna be a process to do that at some point to,
So I agree with you, and I had thought about this earlier today, and while technically it's the principal's building, ultimately, the facilities, and when Carl comes and presents to us, is where I think we would address that mostly, right? Because a lot of these budgets aren't gonna have, like, you know, the cinder block thing that we saw, it was prevalent in every building, which is a little alarming. that's definitely a Carl subject, right? So when Carl comes and presents the facilities budget, that's where I think we're gonna wanna talk about some of the things we saw in the individual buildings from a, structural perspective, cracks in the side, in the pavement, things like that. But I'm all for talking about it and making people aware of it, cause,
I don't think people are
the
aware.
school board and the
public's
budget
aware of
committee
it.
go on these facility tours, but, I mean, I'm for every year opening it up. I mean, years ago, I think it was open to anybody who wanted to go.
That's right,
It
it
was
was.
And I mean, and it's a pandemic, so, we tried to limit people, but I think the only way you're gonna get awareness from a community and a buy-in is really so people can see them for themselves. Some people probably haven't been in those buildings in decades, right?
It was my first time through, and it was eye-opening.
Yeah.
On how, somewhere like Atkinson Academy is like a beautiful place. Some of them are kind of run down, throughout the years. They're all different age buildings, obviously, different structures. We saw a couple of facilities that looked like the same contractor did the work because some of the frames and things were all the same. So it was obviously, it looks like the same contractors did it. But there's definitely an inequity between the different schools. And I think it should be equalized at some point, or some decisions made to do so.
I agree.
Yeah.
Sue?
I think, to Julian's point, I think this is where this performance contract inventory or, would help. And of course, some of the projects to, do some work at Atkinson Academy have been on the CIP and will continue to be CIP'd, along with things from this performance contract inventory, so that we can plan out, the money in a reasonable way to address concerns for safety, student air circulation, et cetera. So, you're right, we don't have buildings that are all the same, and we're four completely different communities that joined together to form a district many years ago, some 50-odd years ago now. And, yeah, the buildings are in different shape. So that's where I think those two things can really help us. The performance contract and the CIP should be utilized heavily by facilities.
I think they will, and just to add, one of the things with the presentation for the heating systems that did have the diagnostic capability, they went through, and literally for each and every one of them, every month, they got the data for the rolling past 12 months as to how often they were on, what the air temperature differential was, when different vents were on that should open to the outside that shouldn't have been, so cold air was coming in, when temperatures of rooms are over 68 degrees between 2 a.m. and I think it was 6 a.m. that shouldn't have been, so those were, heating costs, and took a look at the air quality coming out of the heating systems and in some of the classrooms. And so some of them are redlined. These need to be addressed immediately. Others are green. We don't need to touch it at all. So that is part of what this contract will do. Of highlight, it seemed the high school in Danville needed a lot of TLC as far as just the heating. The least need was Sandown North, which makes sense. That's the newest facility. So that was kind of
That's
good to see that.
reflective of what we saw too,
Which is
right?
reflective. So I think a lot of that is going to come out. They showed a really brief PowerPoint, with the red, green, and yellow and orange. It's up to us to decide where to spend those funds.
Right.
But this process will certainly help having an objective outsider view this and say, yeah, this needs more than just paint.
The other thing that I want to bring up with the performance contract as well is that in a district like ours, where buildings are of all different ages, where some of our buildings are in desperate need, to be able to address that without impacting the taxpayers, this is the only route we can do this. So the performance contract, again, doesn't have any impact in the taxpayers. It doesn't impact the funds that we have to raise through taxes. It's all self-funded, so that is our only way to fix these buildings and to take care of the issues that we really need to take care without impacting our taxes. So that's something that I think is important for members of the community and for all of us to keep in mind, to collaborate with this process because of that.
Michael, did you have a question for
No.
Stephen or for?
Sue nailed it for me. I was gonna say basically the same thing, so, thank you.
Well, we went a little off track there, Stephen,
Hey.
but your building was still
good.
jogged in here and there, So
I'm sure they're happy. that
Yes.
I sat here for so long, so.
Thank you very much.
Everyone, thank you.
Okay.
Todd?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I just got a question. In regards to what was submitted for the proposal of 9,400 and 907 is, and I'm looking at the budget sheet there, there's a discrepancy of like $1,500 in the report, so I don't know if it was captured.
Yeah.
94,000, you mean, John, you said 9,400, that'd be a lovely.
No, I'm sorry, 94,907 is the,
Maria, did you already catch that?
Yeah, we have a new receptionist, I apologize. She's
No,
not in
that's fine.
today.
It just-
She was the one who
Thank you,
printed the
Sean.
reports, and she printed the report from September, not one from October, so I apologize.
No,
Maybe
that's-
just when I reprint them.
okay.
Good catch.
We started on Tuesday, and today she printed the reports for the meeting.
At least that can-
It was a little fast.
Okay.
I apologize.
That's okay.
No, it's fine.
These are Sundown North, which is also the wrong one, but she went and reprinted,
Okay.
Sundown North. Sundown.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Sandown North. Hello,
Hi,
Nancy.
everybody. I'm Nancy Stafford, principal at Sandown North, and I figure it's a good segue going from the oldest building
This is Sundown North.
that my husband actually attended first grade.
Have
But
you,
it wasn't there, it was the Roswell.
have you ever rung the bell
I have not rung the
or
bell.
gone down to the basement?
Oh.
It's an experience.
Ah,
Yeah, now they match.
to the newest building, the newest school in the district. So this is my 21st year at, in Timberlane, and all 20 years, it's our 20th year that Sandown North first opened its doors, and I am happy to say I've been there all 20 years.
Fantastic.
So I've seen a lot. I was able to decrease our budget somewhat to a decrease of 1,798. I'm just going to go through a few of those decreases that were made. The first one is looking at our supplies. When you're looking at enrollment, I do have an increase in students that I'm projecting for next year. However, so typically you'd see more of an increase in that supply area because we're going to have additional children and need additional desks and things. But we have had some major expenses that are no longer. One of the nice things about our new printers is that we don't have to do the toner ordering, which is a lot. So there's a decrease of 2,092, and honestly, toner's a lot more than that. But it was offset by the increase in the number of students for that piece. Then under the next section, supplies, we do have a math curriculum fee that's being moved because it's an access fee, it's an online version. So it really wasn't appropriate. One of the things that Maria's been really helpful with is just looking a little closely at some of our descriptors and where things fall. And certain things, it didn't make sense. We have an online access fee line, and it really meant more sense. So when you see that, that decrease, it's moved to another line. So let's see, the next one has that access fee, and that's a math online access fee that we have now. They're getting away from a lot of the textbooks, and so much now is done online. In terms of replacement equipment, we were looking this past year to order whiteboards because of the age of the building. Those whiteboards, teachers were saying, it's getting harder and harder to keep them clean. And so we were looking at, that's a big expense, and we were looking at replacing a few at a time, not doing them all at once. what happened was I had put in the budget, and then we found out, not only is it the cost of getting the huge, I'm talking about the huge whiteboards that cover, that back in the day were the blackboards, but it was also gonna mean removing the other ones, which was gonna cause some damage to the walls, which would need to be fixed and paint, not damage, but, you know, they're taking them down. So we decided we weren't gonna be going that route yet. And our custodian figured out some better ways to clean it. There's other options. So that was a big savings that we had for that. So my replacement equipment was able to come down that 4,800 amount. I did put in an additional 1,000 for workshops. The year before, I had cut back on it, just because, quite frankly, with COVID, teachers weren't, we hadn't had the opportunity to do as much of that. But I'm hopeful for next year. Let's see. We had our building in service. That, too, had been less, and I really wanted to reinstate some of those funds in terms of professional development for staff. So I was able to do that while still coming under budget. And then the last item is a decrease of 1376. And again, this is due to the fact that we all have something that was under our library budget called BookFlix. And that is now going to be it's going to be part of the district curriculum budget. That's going to be coming under Sandy Allaire's budget. So you'll hear that from all of us. Some of these things, everyone else
Yep.
is in the same boat. Any questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
So, I assume, and just based on what Stephen said, you are working with the staff and the teachers when you're putting this together.
Absolutely.
Does this encompass all and every necessary supplies that they
Yes.
anticipate for their classrooms, and so?
It does.
So there shouldn't be any instances of teachers paying for things on their own?
No, in fact, because you know what, teachers, those of you who are educators or know them, know that they are famous for putting out their own money. And I know I probably speak for my colleagues here as well. So many times, even, we're like, get me the receipt, you know, give us the receipt. And we're trying to get away from that, because I know from the business office standpoint, it's a lot easier if it all comes through that purchase order and,
Yeah.
But yeah, they're like, oh, I was at the dollar store, and I'm like, those dollars add up.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. Any other questions for Nancy?
I have
Go ahead.
students. Hi, Nancy, nice to see you.
Good to see you.
So you're anticipating at least 30 more students for next year? Coming in at the, do you know, are they all smattering or
So, you
grade
know,
levels?
I looked historically and we've been pretty on target with our numbers. We do have a big kindergarten class that's gonna be coming in, from kindergarten into first grade.
First grade.
And our numbers also are pretty high in our incoming second grade, and also in our third grade. So we've been seeing quite an increase. And I even we looked at, because when I get numbers from TLC, of course, not all those students go to Sandown North, will be coming to Sandown North. But I think the incoming current, there's only two.
There's only two that aren't.
Who aren't coming. So it kind of depends.
So that's following kind of a trend that
It
even when I was
is.
on the board, we were seeing coming along.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's tricky. But, you know, I agree, I was really happy we were able to have those facility tours again. It's a really nice opportunity.
It is. And Julian, to your point earlier, the door at Sandown North wouldn't come up in this particular budget, but that'll be part of.
That's a
part of-
facilities.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's definitely, that's on the CIP maybe?
It depends on the cost.
Yeah.
$10,000
Yeah.
door, probably not a $10,000 door.
It's a $90,000.
Tiny $1,000 door,
Yeah.
but it's a facilities.
And just to be clear, there's very few people who can actually manipulate that door currently, right? In
Yeah.
your school?
Correct.
Yeah, so that's,
Correct.
and you use it quite a bit.
Are you talking about the retractable wall?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yes,
wall,
Yes.
yeah.
The wall.
yes. That I say my yearly joke of, it's job security for our custodian.
Yes. Or you're
I
one
got it in.
custodian that can move it. Yes, Julian.
Yeah, I didn't really get an answer on it before, but did that go out to actual bid?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
Anything over $10,000.
That was the best bid?
Yeah.
And there
We
were
only
more
have
than,
one
there was more
company
than
bid.
one bidder? There was not more than one bidder. Yeah, because it seemed rather high for a 30-foot wall.
Well,
I mean, I will say in 20 years, those types of doors have changed so much. You know, right now, it's literally a crank. And now they're electric, and the other piece is the door itself, the material. We need something that's a lot more rugged because it gets used. So it's in between our gym and our cafeteria. And so it gets opened up quite a bit, but it's also closed during the day and like when we have rec groups in at night. And, you know, balls hit it and, you know, it gets a lot of wear and tear. So we need something heavy duty.
the other thing is when you buy things for schools, safety comes first, right?
Right.
So when the retractable wall opens, at a school, you can't have the holes because kids can go and hide. Where the door pushes in, you have to have actually a door that closes behind that. Because if not, the kid can go and hide there, and if somebody closes the door, the kid will get probably killed. So you have to have a lot of safety concerns. That's what that's up, because then those little doors that go behind the actual wall, each door is $5 or $6 or $7,000. So those are the things that you say, but a retractable wall, it shouldn't be that much. Well,
You said there was only one bidder.
Yep.
Maybe they should go out again, see if you get a second. Because sometimes during this pandemic, a lot of people just didn't bid because of the environment. And so maybe it wouldn't hurt to put
Well-
it out again.
we order because
Yeah.
right now it's a safety concern. The door that they have, we can't
It's not our
operate that.
concern. It's a school board's concern, Julian. It's a good idea, but it's not this committee's concern. It's a school board and an administration's concern. It's their money to spend.
Well, it's really all of our money.
It's Sean's money.
No, it's not. It's the people's money.
Well, that would be my suggestion to Sean.
There you go.
There you
No,
go.
I do believe in that. I mean, it just, when you have one data point, they probably realize it too.
Yeah.
They don't need to sharpen their pen. You know, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, if you're on the other side of that and you know you can get it through there, you know.
The sooner you put the bid out, the sooner you might get an answer.
Well, Nancy, I hope that door comes off of your list of needs here, because I know 3 years ago I went there and it was
the same way.
there, so.
Yep.
Anyway,
All right.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty, next.
Patrice Liff, principal of TLC. I have been working in this district for 32 years. I think I'm in my 32nd year, and I need to let you know that as a brand-new teacher, I taught at Sandown Central School in a second grade classroom that is now the teacher's room. and spent 10 years teaching before I went into administration. So it is really nice to be back home, working with our youngest students in the district. And in saying that, I just want to phrase the budget, which I brought in as a flat budget this year. And much like Steve, being new to TLC, I really did the best job I could of building this budget. I will only have to have been there for 2 months. So as we move on through the next year, we will really be looking at deeper needs of the building. And I did, fortunately, I had a lot of staff input on what we should do with this particular budget. It's tricky to project how many students TLC will actually end up with, as we really have no way of knowing how many 3-year-olds will come to us for services, or 3-year-old parents who just want a preschool opportunity for their children 2 mornings or 2 afternoons a week. So we did our best. We averaged, the last 5 years, considering the pandemic, which, was not a real indication of what our numbers actually look like. And if our child find requests, we put a request out for child find, which we have to do twice a year. We already have had 30 inquiries and wanting appointments for us to screen 30 children. That's very high. So I believe that the pandemic has concerned parents about their children's learning.
Didn't that just get announced like 2 days ago?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that's really quite a large amount of kids to screen. So we will do our best with that. But like I said, it is a flat budget. And after speaking to the staff, it became very, very clear that what we need in terms of learning that needs to be caught up and really good instruction that needs to be supported is to put some extra money into books for kindergarten book bags. And in doing that, I want to just tell you, it is really, really important for very beginning readers to read as many books as they possibly can. Now, we don't have very many readers yet, but we're going to very soon have 70 readers in that school. And they need to be able to read every day in the classroom and bring books home to read to their parents every night. So we need to have a large supply and opportunity for children to be able to do that. So I took a look at the budget, and I'm happy to answer questions. We moved just things like new furniture that I thought we could just do with what we have for a year. And a few other areas that, we felt like we could just make do with a little less money. So we were able to add from reducing a few lines, $1,600 to an already existing amount of $400. And so $400 for books for young children, that is not enough money for any school to buy reading materials. So that was where we chose to move our money this year, trying to be fiscally conservative. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions for Patrice? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, we are missing one of the schools on the agenda, so just so everyone knows, we still have, we have Pollard and we also have Danville. So up to you two, which one? Thank you.
Pollard.
Hi, everyone. I'm Doug Blay. I'm the principal at Pollard School. It's my 3rd year as the principal at Pollard. I've been in the district 21 years. It's actually funny. The 1803, I was a teacher at Atkinson for many years. I was the last teacher in the 1803 building upstairs. And when I actually got engaged when I was in that classroom and I rang the bell. But don't tell Mrs. Deotis. She's still around. But yeah, I got to ring it when I got engaged, which was very sweet. So that building definitely is special to me. So if you look at what you have, our Pollard's numbers of students stay pretty. That 470 seems to be our sweet spot. Today we had 3 registrations, so by Monday we'll be at 466. So one of the nice things is our numbers seem to be staying pretty much the same throughout year to year. This year I was able to reduce the budget a little bit. Part of that, the budget decrease was in that new equipment line. We have just with Michelle Ogier and myself, we had a plan to replace all the desks in the building. And this year we were able to do that. The last of the desks have been ordered this year. Sadly, the legs are on a cargo ship, which is very odd to me that just the legs are on a cargo ship. But so those will soon be done, hopefully, once those ships are unloaded. Like everyone else, that we have the decrease in the fees to that net into the BookFlix account. This really seems to be the number of the budget we need to really get the kids what they need to learn actively at Pollard School. I think one of the things we do really well is with the teachers is figure out what we need to get in the kids of our hands, into the hands of our kids so they'll learn. And I think that this budget is definitely that budget. So it really hasn't changed because I think it's working. It's what works. So I don't have a lot to say, but I am happy to answer questions. Anyone? No? Thank you so much.
Not to leave out the facility tour at your building, but
Yes.
we all very much enjoyed the massive attic above.
Oh,
the
yeah.
building.
We should turn that into a room.
That was a big thing on the facility tours was all the schools that have those newer constructed wings, and that was impressive. Maybe create a bowling alley up there.
If you haven't been to Pollard, Pollard has a history of, if you want to see the history of schools throughout the country, come to Pollard because we've had pretty much an addition at every generation. So I think we're at 7, I think is our total. So you can see the history of schools from 1900 to now if you come visit Pollard. So please feel free to do that. We love visitors. Thank you all.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Last but not least, Danville Elementary.
Hot off the press.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm Chris Snyder, the principal at Danville School. This is my first year at Danville. Previously, I was the assistant principal at Atkinson Academy for 6 years.
So many tie-ins to Atkinson.
Crazy. I have been in the basement of Atkinson Academy. I've never rung the bell. So you can let Mrs. Davis know that I've never done that if she's watching or listening. But I guess the other thing that comes to mind is that I have 4 children. One of my sons is going to turn 13 next month. He was born that first fall that I worked at Atkinson Academy, which seems crazy, that he's 13. Doesn't mean that I'm getting older, but he certainly is. But no, it's been a great transition for me. Danville's been very welcoming, wonderful staff that we have there. I've gotten a lot of input from individuals that are there, and the students, I'm getting to know their names. It seems like if I can get 2 or 3 every day, it helps get to know them. That's an important thing for me personally, is just to get to know the names of our staff and our students pretty well.
You had a sit-down with your predecessor, I believe, when you started there.
I
to
did, yes.
Tell you the ropes at Danville?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
And it was, I don't know if this is the place to share the story, but Nancy Barcelos reached out to me. And shortly after I started, the first or second week I was in, she agreed to come meet with me, and it was a great conversation. And I don't know if you know this, but there's a buddy bench that was installed at school in honor of her last spring. And shortly after we met, I didn't have my phone on me, so I don't have the picture to prove it, but our mascot is the hawk. And there's a huge significance to the name. That's why there's an E in it, for the community of Danville, but it's also our school mascot. But literally, as I was walking through the building, there was a literal hawk sitting on the ground right next to the bench that's been dedicated to her. And while I was standing there, it literally jumped up and was sitting on that bench.
Wow.
You know, which I thought was a really nice, I don't know what that means, if anything, but it was just Nancy and I had a lovely conversation. And it was just, I felt like that was a really great, symbolic something or whatever, but, it was nice.
Excellent.
Right. So, the budget that we have proposed for next year, and I'm very much like Mr. Harris's and, Mrs. Liff, shared, you know, trying to figure this out in a relatively short amount of time. That's why I'm thankful for the input I was able to give or receive from so many. We're looking at about a $1,500 increase over what has been proposed in the past. Our enrollment numbers, I did a little bit of projection. Our current fifth grade class is the largest class in the school, and for several years now, we've had a smaller class coming in. So last year's numbers were way low compared to what historically they have been, and I think that's directly correlated to COVID. But we're estimating we will have about 276 students. I believe we're in the 294, just since we've had some registrations and things since this was prepared. So we'll be a little bit smaller as a school if those projections bear out. I do know there are some developments happening, you know, in Danville, so we may see numbers that are more in line with 290. But on balance, we tried to create a budget that was as close to flatlined as possible. You'll notice the supply line had an increase, the general supply line of just over $3,000. A lot of that was that we shifted money out of, we have a supply line just for the office that includes some things that need to stay there, like, you know, the shredding that we pay for that service. There's postage that comes out of that, but, you know, Post-it notes, I don't know that we have to have a special line item for Post-it notes for the office when we have a general supply line for things like that the whole staff uses. So we shifted some of those things around, so there's, you know, an increase in one supply line, and really what that's reflective of just reallocating some resources that are there, if that makes sense. The biggest, I think, amount of actual increase would come in some of the new equipment for classrooms. One of the things I noticed when we walked around, or when I walked around, was a lot of our primary grade classrooms don't have a rug. I know that's not just an indicative of COVID, where we needed to space everyone out. They literally don't exist in our rooms. And so that's one request that was very clear from our staff at the primary grade level, is that assuming we can move beyond some of the spacing requirements, that would be a nice addition to their classroom. And in order to purchase those, they have to be fire rated. This is more than just going to your local, you know, home improvement store and buying, you know, some carpet. It has to meet certain standards, which means that those rugs are going to cost more than what would be typical. And then we have a new innovation enrichment role, and that particular person is a new staff member to us, not new transferred from another school, but as she is figuring out that program, she had some very specific requests for things in that program that we wanted to purchase for her as well. The other items are really decreases that really are just looking at a historical spending and trying to bring what we're budgeting in line with what we actually spend on things like school assemblies. I already talked about the supplies. And then with field trips, it's a line item that's there. They're very important, I think, not just looking from last year just because we weren't doing field trips. But again, looking historically, we could reduce that a little over $1,000 and probably still be able to offer our students comparable experiences to what they've had historically.
Any questions?
I have a question. So why are they looking to do rugs in some of the classrooms? Is this something new that they're trying to do?
No, a lot of rooms, what they have, honestly, they have their foam. They look like gigantic puzzle pieces that stick together.
Okay.
And they have those, but those are not very durable, and they're actually pretty hard to clean and keep clean. And so they're probably less expensive, but they're something that we're going to replace more often. And I think a nice fire rated rug that you can clean as you need to is gonna last a lot longer, and will just be more comfortable for the kids ultimately.
It's an area rug, right? It's an
Right.
area rug, and
Area
the kids
rug.
would come and sit in a circle.
Oh,
and
this
sit
is an
together.
area rug?
Yes.
And not a
Yes.
carpet.
It's not
Okay.
carpeting, sorry, I didn't
yes.
specify that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
They'll have
done.
Primary. Circle time where they'll do
Circle time.
calendar, they
Yes,
do
yes.
different
Okay.
reading.
Little wall
things like
shag.
I withdraw my question.
I knew what you were asking.
Sorry, Mike.
I had the same misconception.
Any other questions for Chris?
And I will echo the sentiment that it was very nice having many of you come to Danville for the tour. I hope that's something that's a tradition that continues.
Did you find out what's under that metal
Yes,
manhole looking thing?
that would be the water shut off for the entire building. If we ever had to shut the water off for any reason, that's
Okay.
what's under there.
There you go. So not another secret place we could have gone and
Correct.
walked
Yeah, there was a bell and a bowling alley.
Maybe you could go shut the water off someday.
There you go.
Wasn't ready for it.
Just bring a screwdriver or
Yeah.
something to.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you all very much for
thank you
coming.
all.
We appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time.
Have a good night, guys.
Thank
Drive
you.
carefully.
All right, have a good day tomorrow. Friday.
Thank you all.
Days are always good days.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to other business. I don't know of any other business. Anyone? Going once? All right. Future agendas and dates. So we have a full squad in here tonight, so we're on track. That's fantastic. Next meeting is October 28th, which of course, hopefully we'll see everybody at the special meeting at the, that's gonna be happening next, Thursday, at the gym for the, are we calling it a deliberative, or is it just called a special?
Special meeting.
Special
Special
meeting.
meeting.
And then, of course, we'll be back on track for the 28th. We, maybe for the agenda for next week, we could get that combined school board, budget committee meeting thrown into our future
Put
agenda
into the
dates.
agenda list, yeah.
Yep,
And that's at the,
that's gonna be at the PAC, yeah, yep. And then, right?
Did you decide in the date with, I know Kim, you and Kim
Oh,
are
yeah,
working
that's-
on the date.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
okay,
So it's gonna be the
So it's the-
18th,
okay.
and it's at the PAC.
okay.
And then so just a reminder, while it typically is every other Thursday, that the caveat there is then we're running into Veterans Day, lands on a Thursday, so that's why we're meeting on the 10th. And then, of course, Thanksgiving is the 25th, so on a Thursday, as it always is, so we're gonna meet on the 23rd that week. And then we'll go back to every other Thursday. Yes, Mike?
So when we update this agenda list, since some of the locations are changing,
Yeah.
Good call.
just, can we put the facility so nobody shows up
Yes.
to the wrong place? That's all,
Okay.
Good
Sure.
suggestion. Okay.
like me.
I had to find out
Should say
where we were
I'm
tonight.
sorry.
Okay, so with that, I will, call this meeting to a close at 8:09, and we'll see you all in, next week and in a couple weeks. Thank you very much.